This is
This man then started off like a game. Now I'm left in cash with no pride to the name. These lines connect the dots. What was obvious like a chessboard for putting in listening thoughts. Comments, posing, characters drove, moments, movements we made in order to direct, course, divine. Could have happened chance today without any reason or doubt. The game is almost over. I can say it's a checkmate. Keep it in possession of the heart that is about to break. But it's time to swipe those pieces of the world. Beginning of a new game of life, and it's time to see who can make it on their own this time. With time, wherever we be well with a different person or the opposing team. This is the whether you can find me or just the game that needs to be. Honest with thoughts and listen open. And listen used to choices available to the wisely. And this is clear for the check the pieces of the board. Let's start from the clean slate where we didn't sit cross. Side by side for the new attempt at love, not the cross for the each to inflict pain, but holding hands together for the fears facing. This is the place for not for the opposing player, for the crosshairs. Stride our hands one more time for this not to be the time for the words from our hips and lips and for the chips and the we can use to capture the pieces together for the end of this not to be the leaving for the word the loving together with the love in our hearts. It's the delicate part of it. Blindfold, she truly left on the face. Like a mother, like you're none other with just a time for the period. Biological ties for the apex of the emotional heights that make yourself some sensational love for the region. You're so high you can take a look at your history as the first thing you listen to this thing and by staring apart from this pistols. I would be so rude and ignoring all the tips to reach out for the blue. Now look at your clock ticking away from the side of the couch. It's like you said with terrible silence for the kicking at the doors. Heartless food, you were thought, ignorant. It was cool. It was terrible. We read these moments apart from looking how painful the heart paints. With the love, clean the school. Nothing like a diamond without a tooth. Just the look of the broken hearted. Facets and look outside and you see pines away with the Mars and the careful fool. You can find a track of love so true for what you lead led to the heart that is the crossroads. How could you break heart without any remorse without how could it be so cruel? How could the heartlessly overflow with the reminiscent fools? How can our eyes be swollen with the unheightened sadness and the pupils contracting with the cataract of down in the sleep? drove, moments, movements we made in order to direct course of the bond. Could have happened sharing today, but without any reasonable doubt, the game is almost over now. I could say it's checkmate with you, but in the possession of the heart for that is about to break. For this is time to swipe those pieces of the board for the beginning of the new game of life, and it's time to see who can make it on their own this time. With time, whatever will do well with a different person or the opposing. See, this is the whether you can find me or just the game that needs to be. Honest with thoughtfulness and open, and this use of the choices available to the wisely. And this is the clear for the old checker pieces of the board. Let's start from the clean slate where we didn't sit cross. Side by side for the new attempt at love, for the not the cross, for the each to the inflict pain, but the holding hands together for the fears facing. That's the place for the knife for the opposing player, for the crosshairs, stride our hands one more time for this not to be the time for the words from our hips and lips and for the chips and we can use to capture the pieces together for the end of this not to be the leaving for the board, the loving together with the love in our hearts. It's the dead departed. The blindfold she truly left on the face. Like a mother, like none other with just a time for the purely biological ties, for the apex of the emotional heights that made yourself some sensational love for the reaching is so high you can take a look for your history. It's the bursting with the whistles, and this is the inbox tearing apart for this the pistols. How could you be so rude for the ignoring all attempts to reach out for the blue? Now look at your clock ticking away for the silent without your bliss like your cerebral. Terrible silence for the kicking at the door so you eat. Heartless fool you could thought the ignoring. It was cool. But it was a terrible regret these moments apart for the looking how painful the heart paints with the love, clueless fool. Nothing like a diamond without a tooth for this the look of the broken hearted with the hurt facets and look how silent she pines away with the Mars and the careless bull. You can find the triumph of the love so truthful with you believe led to the heart for this is the false course. How could you break heart without any remorse without how could you be so cruel? How could the heartless be overflow with the luminous of the pools? How can the eyes and be swollen with the impact of sadness and the pupils retracting with the cataract of loneliness and maybe it's time for these little douches to run tight rule. This is over the guy for the tries to impress them with the such the paces to find their due. This is the time for the right for the care for the guy in life and with maybe do the mastery for this the smooth for the lines is so pretty enough for making something deserving of being called. This is the supreme for the mastery over for the slick move and over the ground with the rings. But this is the circus and not for the sit back and then find your choosing bathing with the right clues and how you could fail. This is the real for the youth for the maybe sometimes them ladies engaging with that bump on the running when the man is over the counter maybe to pick up that line and find that survey. Heated encounterment with the first insight where maybe you are a demon for the ooze to destruction is due. Who's through the crimes to litter for the trails to the broken hearted for the clues. Yes, one for the committed felony for the gifts that womanhood and one for the upset for the standards of chivalry. Inside of that move maybe the hook for the always counting out the outburst of what you thought was true. The mirror for the blurry it was like a drenching dew for the distance been screaming in the lungs and not for the white for the wild for the distance tongues for the feels of the taste of about maybe for the taking of seconds maybe for the clear for the residue clearly for the moment of it we have a reflection with the raging that has been the reason for the saging attack, stinging. This is the heartless crook with the hand for the impressive, and that for the captain cook with the use the right words for being doubts for the dancer of the cowardly darkness, and ignoring them for the mirage is faded with the passing of the years. Just traveling, looking for the shelter for the storm in the head of it, moving to the stumps and it'll block you for the sunlight and the clutches every time for the managing way to get through those muds, stone pavements. Easy to straw for the surgery, straight air ball for the fire for the head for the music, the shoppers and entertainment for the people who are looking inside of the windows and rubbing nothing but the wood to find a music for the red clothes. These are child that turned into the rags for the mud for the earth the floors. These are for the audacity for the fire and the cheering cast for the mouth strike the use like him. Must is have the strength of the preserving and isn't it too lashed out unnecessarily for the some of the justice spectacle to see what the race is all about. For this is the turning of the backs inside for the guts to wrong inside the world around. This is the some that call it crazy mind translating itself into the medium and others is find the time orchestrations of the word of the genius. There's beliefs for the keep me going for the rags to the clothing for the I want for the protection. Keep falling for the rags that makes me different enough for the distant hanging hangers. Maybe the round and problem for the you can find that warmth in the present world of deception for the word the tears that I birth for the sleep for the leaves and another joke for the jeers. The audience for another reason for I should follow the passage. And if it doesn't become a topic today, it doesn't make it elusive. I magnify the traits, leaves for the left for the love for the story for the next generation and leave for the legacy for the admirer for the frame, the finery for the least to call themselves for the fabrics of the bull ranches. Poetry, this is the same for the antics. Maybe the toxic mind for the border and mediocrity for the whenever who ugly, who's his inspiration and who's for another passion becomes in motivation as to who can see believe in the thirsty of blood. Ruin for the tribal for the wedding with the through the mud for this you can see him on every sweat for the face and elixir out of
they say out of your airspace just a little further with the surface.
Yeah, they say out of your airspace just a little.
Yeah, they say out of your airspace just a little further with the surface. You can make it come mind and feel. Maybe just a little further with the salvation. You can find a perseverance with this enough to see the love crown. You're sitting for the heaven and you have a place to crawl on the ground for the lead me. And if it's the same for the grit and teeth for the coffee, I was sure they get there, but they should come on the way for the giving. I see nowhere for the belonging. Coming. This is the life for the death, for the rage, for the end, for the life, for this is the not be straight. My heart been broken heart, but this is the drunken night for the I was involved in the rally for the soul, but this is the wrong to me, the life, the wrong to the life. I never see no more shines so bright for the bucket, deep inside, but the heart isn't laden. So hard for the eyes of the innocent, but the seeking of love for the impossible for the play. It was what I did for the night when we went to the entertainment with the night. We came to the swears with the luck for the you could find that for the one with the safety with the one I felt. Need to love for to become possible, not for the one that I hoped in, with the fear for the breaking of the heart, for the selling of the heel for the souls. It was intense enough for the years to come. It was the jealousy for the insecurity, for the drift about the fear, for the anyway, for the ick we raised. Could not believe it, how lucky I wasn't really in my real. So guess it, but the talking of the past with the wounds with the mind, for the weird, for the strong, for the high walk through, to find the darkness with the unspoken love. In love, off you went. And this is the place where you can find the fidelity without an issue, for the going like this, man, how can I not? This is the race for the never for die, for the fear, for the always requirement decided. How you told the truth of the breaking of the heart for the second way, for you deserving the love you felt, but never since I provided, but the often went shaking, shattered, with the broken, with the hope in the one day that I can change my mind for the spoken again, for the speaking, for the fear, for the love, for the different, everything I was doing for the pain, for her, 8, 9, for the 10, for the knocking, love it over the door in the heart, broken enough for the love in the heart, for the 911, for the fell, for the heart, for the distance, the shock, for the coming out of the room, love, bone, for the sun, live for the had a reason for your time, and the explore on it for the falling of the knees. Comforting for the falling, rubbing for the back for the anxiety attack. Here's the cries for the downfall. Here's the neighbors for the go for the you can go for the you for this is another that you need to stop. You need help. Maybe this is for the when I look at you from the side of the eyes and see no future. Again, this is when I realize how to see your face when never see. I picture myself with the never was alterate. It was a place where you could find some alteration, to find some destruction, the correction, and never want to look at yourself and hold me to it. Accountable measure that you don't want to hold. The messer of the disproportionate, for the creature, for the legs to hold, that belong to aren't too short for the Bible, for the barely do hold a shape of the creepy teeth, for the person who laid their eyes in the past to walk through the microscope. You're constantly reminded of the imperfections, and this is the soft for the plan of the you run your hands down your body for the failing of the palms, dip into the valley for the work of my wrist. Middle man waits in the run over the sharpness with my hips and gentle care, but the honest and of your eyes and never frozen be completely for the world with the smile as bright as the sunbeams. You're for the one over the tone of bouncing through my framework with until it's stripped down to the skull. For all the doubts you kiss my cheek and maybe to start with the fingertips and the tracing of the patterns in my back for the imperfections in my face if you like them. Maybe someday I would think you could be beautiful too. And maybe that's the reason why I could find the ridiculous in the ooze. And maybe the nighttime for the time the night is right there panic for the exploding of the world was supposed to go. The finest snooze and ooze with the thoughts of the fear, for the questions and tears in my heart. I raise for you, for obviously for you, for the writing of a sweet love no for maybe the feeling of the same, and not that for the person you can be living into the dark and unpredictable for the just like the smell of smoke, and then with the rabble for the drinks of the rain, for this is the outline for the pain, for the smoke, for the rising into the air, for the nothing can be seen here, nothing can be feeling, for the expression, for the ability, for the pulling of the dark lights, for the vacuum, for the pure, for the will, for the hopes of like a shape of the dark moon, like a whirlpool. This is the heart for the dive to the heart that when nature raging, feeling like a bull. This is the gypsy for the long road, for the time to be conscious, lost with the exhaustion of the sigh, like lost ships with a ship for the drowned, the system for the breaking of the helm, break for the relationship, for the partnership, and the sound of the stem. It's the taking for every living, and the emotion expressed for the hostage and exhaustion, power for the soul firm. You can take it straight to the mind, for the burn, for the outward, the panel light, for the exhausting of the pump. Excellent. I remember the effort was gone to waste, but you can remember what you kept for the going for the long, for the in-person with the last place you use. You belong to the eye, for the storm, for the heart, for the use you want yourself. This is the place for the before your side, for the not even for this is decided for the oblivion you signed the truth. Your mind is oblivion, nothing is left on, for the light, for this is the soul that's gone. Paradise there for the mind, for the open mind, for the open hands, for the make you stand for the atlas. You can have no chance for the heartless as you are. The wings of the beautiful as a night, for the flight, for the slight, for the lady, for the chance, for the motion, for the lead, for the chance, for the lead, for your hand, for the drink, for the winter legs. For the eyes, for the party, for the glance flash, for zipping, for your vanish, hell, for the dust and trouble. Finally be out here for the thinking and needs to prepare. We're born enough to deserving for the life from here. You are gone into the wilderness, so far away from the desert, somewhere where your feelings can be.
Who's justified? Who's understood? Someone you be there for the prime of the source of fear. Someone you can enjoy them seats and without the clarity, for the fire around for the mountain starting, for the pleasing of the weathers and the motion. If you believe inside the heart, for the praying at the end, for the taking away, for the shadow piece of your heart, for the here, for the leaving of the shadow, for the remaining of the memories, and you can play in reverse like a beautiful hummingbird. That you are, but they're not words. Finding the beat and the weeds and the seem so dead. You thought for the left, for the those, for the beautiful feathers, for the clover. Honor for the adornments of the patterns. Stare for the remarkable features. Get for the sad words of those tiny times, for the fellow pleasures, and you can find the memories appear like a mist across the intercepting of a river. Only for the time for the rivers are gone. Directions and directions from here aren't even going to meet you in the sea ahead, for the separation forever, for the way from here, for the higher, for the earth, reaching into the skies for one. Last month for the last one, moments it meant to never read the permanent, for the out for the reaching from figure, for the you can find the range for words you can find sincere enough that you can only hear the whispers of the what was need to be said for the whisper that are distorted by the winds in your ears. It says, you're gone forever. Who's justified? Who's understood? Someone you be there for the prime of the source of fear. Someone you can enjoy them seats and without the clarity, for the fire around for the mountain starting, for the pleasing of the weathers and the motion. If you believe inside the heart, for the praying at the end, for the taking away, for the shadow piece of your heart, for the here, for the leaving of the shadow, for the remaining of the memories, and you can play in reverse like a beautiful hummingbird. That you are, but they're not words. Finding the beat and the weeds and that seem so dead. You put it for the left, for the those, for the beautiful feathers, for the clover. Honor for the adornments of the patterns. Stare for the remarkable features. Get for the sad words of those tiny times, for the fellow pleasures, and you can find the memories appear like a mist across the intercepting of a river. Only for the time for the rivers are gone. Directions and directions from here aren't even going to meet you in the sea ahead, for the separation forever, for the way from here, for the higher, for the earth, reaching into the skies for one. Last month for the last one, moments it meant to never read the permanent, for the out for the reaching from no figure, for the you can find the range for words you can find sincere enough that you can only hear the whispers of the what was need to be said, for the whisper that are distorted by the winds in your ears. It says, you're gone forever. Who's justified? Who's understood? Someone you be there for the prime of the source of fear. Someone you can enjoy them seats and without the clarity, for the fire around for the mountain starting, for the pleasing of the weathers and the motion. If you believe inside the heart, for the praying at the end, for the taking away, for the shadow piece of your heart, for the here, for the leaving of the shadow, for the remaining of the memories, and you can play in reverse like a beautiful hummingbird. That you are, but they're not words. Finding the beat and the weeds and that seem so dead. You put it for the left, for the those, for the beautiful feathers, for the clover. Honor for the adornments of the patterns. Stare for the remarkable features. Get for the sad words of those tiny times, for the fellow pleasures, and you can find the memories appear like a mist across the intercepting of a river. Only for the time for the rivers are gone. Directions and directions from here aren't even going to meet you in the sea ahead for the separation forever. For the way from here, for the high, for the earth, reaching into the skies for one. Last month for the last one, moments it meant to never read the permanent. For the out for the reaching from, don't figure for the you could find the range for words you could find sincere enough that you can only hear the whispers of the what was need to be said for the whisper that are distorted by the winds in your ears. It says, you're gone forever. Who's justified? Who's understood? Someone you deeply there for the primate of the source of food. So much good enjoy them seats and for that declarative. For the fire around for the not me starting. For the pleasing of the weathers and emotion. If you can leave inside the heart of the frame at the end for the taking away for the shadow piece of your heart. For the here for the leaving of the shadow for the remaining of the memories. And you can play and reverse like a beautiful hummingbird that you are but in not words. Finding the beat in the ways and that seems so dead. You probably for the left for the dose for the beautiful feathers for the clover. Out for the adornments of the patch. Stare for the remarkable features. Get for the sad words of those tiny times, for the fellow pleasures, and you can find the memories appear like a mist across the intercepting of a river. Only for the time for the rivers are gone. Directions and directions from here aren't even going to meet you in the sea ahead for the separation forever. For the way from here, for the higher, for the earth, reaching into the skies for one. Last month for the last one, moments it meant to never read the permanent. For the out for the reaching from, don't figure for the you can find the range for words you can find sincere enough that you can only hear the whispers of the what was need to be said for the whisper that are distorted by the winds in your ears. It says, you're gone forever. Who's justified? Who's understood? Someone you bigly there for the primate of the source of fears. So much you can enjoy them seats and for that declarative. For the fire around for the not me starting. For the pleasing of the weathers and emotion that you can leave inside the heart for the fraying at the end. For the taking away for the shadow piece of your heart. For the here for the leaving of the shadow. For the remaining of the memories and you can play and reverse like a beautiful hummingbird that you are but in not words. Finding the beat in the ways and that seems so dead. You put it for the left for the dose for the beautiful feathers for the clover. Autumn for the adornments of the patterns. Stare for the remarkable features. Get for the sad words of those tiny times, for the fellow pleasures, and you can find the memories appear like a mist across the intercepting of a river. Only for the time for the rivers are gone. Directions and directions from here aren't even going to meet you in the sea ahead for the separation forever. For the way from here, for the higher, for the earth, reaching into the skies for one. Last month for the last one, moments it meant to never read the permanent. For the out for the reaching from, don't figure for the you can find the range for words you can find sincere enough that you can only hear the whispers of the what was need to be said for the whisper that are distorted by the winds in your ears. It says, you're gone forever. Who's justified? Who's understood? Someone you bigly there for the primate of the source of fear. So much you can enjoy them seats and for that declarative. For the fire around for the not me starting. For the pleasing of the weathers and emotion that you can leave inside the heart for the fraying at the end. For the taking away for the shadow piece of your heart. For the here for the leaving of the shadow. For the remaining of the memories and you can play and reverse like a beautiful hummingbird that you are but in not words. Finding the beat in the ways and that seems so dead. You put it for the left for the dose for the beautiful feathers for the clover. Autumn for the adornments of the patterns. Stare for the remarkable